Have you ever noticed that the biggest moves in the silver market often begin when nobody is paying attention? Not when silver is making headlines, not when everyone on social media is talking about it, but when the market is quiet, when investors are distracted, and when something important happens beneath the surface. Well, something just happened in the silver market that almost nobody noticed. And if history is any guide, it could end up being one of the most important signals of the year. What makes this so interesting is that while most people are focused on stocks, interest rates, and the latest economic headlines, silver has quietly started sending a message. The question is simple. Is this just another short-term move, or are we witnessing the early stages of something much bigger? Before we dive in, welcome back to OG John Market. If you enjoy straightforward silver analysis without the noise, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel grow, and it ensures you never miss important developments in the precious metals market. Now let's get into what happened and why it matters. Over the past several years, silver has repeatedly shown that it can surprise investors. Time and time again, it has spent months moving sideways, frustrating both bulls and bears, only to suddenly make a powerful move when the market least expects it. That's one reason why experienced investors pay close attention to subtle changes instead of waiting for mainstream media coverage. By the time the news channels start talking about silver, much of the move may already be underway. Recently, market participants began noticing unusual activity in several areas of the silver market. Physical demand has remained resilient despite economic uncertainty. Industrial demand continues to grow as technology, renewable energy projects, and manufacturing sectors consume large quantities of silver. At the same time, many investors have started questioning whether current silver prices accurately reflect these long-term trends. What's fascinating is that this shift isn't happening in isolation. Around the world, governments continue to deal with debt challenges, inflation concerns, and slowing economic growth. Central banks have spent years trying to balance these competing pressures. Every policy decision creates winners and losers, and precious metals often react in ways that many investors fail to anticipate. Think about what silver represents. Unlike many assets, silver occupies a unique position. It is both an industrial metal and a monetary metal. That means its value can be influenced by economic growth, manufacturing demand, investment demand, inflation expectations, and even geopolitical uncertainty. Few assets have as many moving parts affecting their price. Now, here's where things become especially interesting. While many investors have been waiting for a dramatic headline to justify a major silver move, the market may already be laying the foundation without that headline ever appearing. This is something we've seen before. Markets often move ahead of the news. Smart money tends to position itself before the story becomes obvious to everyone else. Imagine you're looking at a giant puzzle. Most people only pay attention when the final piece is placed. Experienced investors, however, watch as the pieces slowly come together. They look for patterns. They look for signals. And recently, several of those signals have started aligning in ways that deserve attention. One factor is the growing disconnect between perception and reality. Many people still view silver as an afterthought compared to gold. Gold gets most of the attention during times of uncertainty. Yet, historically, silver has often delivered larger percentage gains once momentum begins building. That doesn't mean silver always goes higher, but it does explain why some investors closely monitor the metal whenever market conditions start changing. Another factor is investor sentiment. Ironically, some of the strongest opportunities emerge when enthusiasm is low. When everyone is already bullish, there's often less room for surprise. But when interest is muted and expectations remain modest, it takes less positive news to create a powerful reaction. This brings us back to the event that many people missed. The market appears to be showing signs of strengthening beneath the surface, not necessarily through one dramatic price spike, but through a combination of trends that collectively tell a larger story. Physical demand remains present, industrial usage continues expanding, long-term supply concerns have not disappeared, and investors are increasingly looking for assets that can potentially benefit from economic uncertainty. Of course, none of this guarantees a major rally tomorrow. Markets don't move in straight lines. There will always be volatility. There will always be periods where prices move against expectations. But what makes this situation worth watching is the way multiple factors are beginning to point in the same direction. Let's talk about history for a moment, because history often provides valuable context. Some of silver's biggest moves occurred after extended periods of frustration. Investors would lose interest, trading activity would slow down, the market would appear boring. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, momentum would return. Suddenly everyone wanted exposure to silver. News stories appeared everywhere. Analysts rushed to explain what had already happened. The key lesson is that major trends rarely announce themselves in advance. They usually begin quietly. Think back to other financial markets throughout history. Whether it's stocks, commodities, real estate, or currencies, significant moves often start when confidence is low and attention is elsewhere. By By the time a trend becomes obvious, many of the easiest gains have already occurred. That's why some silver investors are paying attention right now. They understand that the goal isn't to predict every short-term fluctuation. The goal is to identify situations where the risk-reward balance may be changing. Another reason this matters is because silver's role in the global economy continues evolving. The world is becoming more dependent on technologies that require silver. Electronics, solar energy systems, advanced manufacturing processes, and various industrial applications all rely on silver's unique properties. Unlike many materials, silver possesses characteristics that are difficult to replace in certain technologies. As demand grows over the long term, supply becomes an increasingly important part of the equation. Markets don't need an immediate shortage to react. Sometimes they simply need evidence that future supply growth may struggle to keep pace with future demand growth. Investors constantly try to anticipate these developments before they become obvious. At the same time, macroeconomic uncertainty remains a major theme. Inflation may not dominate headlines every day, but concerns about purchasing power have not disappeared. Government debt levels remain historically high in many regions. Economic growth forecasts continue changing. Interest rate expectations shift with each new data release. All of these variables contribute to investor decision-making. Silver doesn't exist in a vacuum. It responds to the broader financial environment. That's why market participants are watching developments so closely. They understand that silver's future performance will likely depend on a combination of industrial demand, investment demand, monetary policy, and global economic conditions. What's particularly noteworthy is that some investors appear to be focusing less on short-term noise and more on long-term fundamentals. This shift in perspective can be important. Short-term traders and long-term investors often look at the same market and reach completely different conclusions. A trader may focus on daily price fluctuations. A long-term investor may focus on supply trends, demand growth, and macroeconomic conditions over several years. Both approaches have merit, but they produce very different interpretations of market activity. Right now, the long-term story surrounding silver remains compelling for many market observers. They see growing industrial demand. They see persistent economic uncertainty. They see continued interest in hard assets. And they see a market that, despite periodic rallies, still doesn't receive the same level of attention as many other asset classes. This creates an interesting situation. If positive catalysts continue emerging, silver could potentially attract increased investor interest. More attention can lead to more participation. More participation can influence price dynamics. Again, nothing is guaranteed, but these are the kinds of developments experienced investors monitor closely. One of the most common mistakes people make is assuming that important market shifts must be obvious. In reality, the opposite is often true. Important shifts frequently begin quietly. They develop over time. They gain strength beneath the surface. Only later do they become visible to the broader public. That may be exactly why this recent silver development deserves attention. Not because it guarantees a specific outcome, but because it suggests that underlying conditions may be changing in ways many people haven't fully appreciated yet. As we move further into the year, several questions will likely shape the silver narrative. Will industrial demand continue growing? Will economic uncertainty increase investor interest in precious metals? Will supply challenges become more significant? And perhaps, most importantly, will the market begin recognizing trends that currently remain underappreciated? The answers to these questions could have a major impact on silver's future direction. For now, what stands out is the contrast between market activity and public attention. Significant developments appear to be taking place, yet many people remain focused elsewhere. That's exactly the type of environment where unexpected opportunities can emerge. Whether you're a long-term investor, a silver enthusiast, or simply someone interested in understanding financial markets, this is a story worth watching. The silver market has a history of surprising people. It has a history of moving when confidence is low and expectations are modest. And once again, we may be seeing early signs that something important is happening beneath the surface. The coming months will reveal whether these signals develop into a larger trend. Until then, staying informed and paying attention to the details may prove more valuable than chasing headlines after the fact. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think silver is preparing for a major move? Or do you believe the market is overreacting to normal fluctuations? Drop your opinion in the comments below, because these discussions help everyone learn from different perspectives. And if you found this analysis useful, share this video with a friend who follows precious metals or investing. You never know who might benefit from hearing a different perspective on what's happening in the silver market right now. Thanks for watching OG John Market. Stay informed, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.